I want to welcome everybody here today. As Vanessa said earlier, this is the largest crowd we've ever had for this event. We're here today to celebrate the 2024 Oklahoma County Tree of Life ceremony today. And it's a somber moment, but an exciting moment, and we're so grateful that we have all of you present, and especially our law enforcement partners, our public safety partners. And I'm going to introduce a few special guests. I may forget some, so apologize in advance. But first and foremost, I want to introduce Tricia Everest, our Secretary of Public Safety for Governor Kevin Stitt. We have Paul Harris, Director of the Highway Safety Office. My good friend Donnie Anderson, Director of the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. Our prestigious Oklahoma County DA, Vicki Behana, could not be here. She had a conflict, but we have Michael Fry, the First Assistant, Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office. We also have Danny Long, Director of the Oklahoma First Responders Wellness Division. And then special acknowledgments for donation of tree, boxes, and space. We have Jill Farrand, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Penn Square Mall. Come up here, Jill. Get over here so we can see you. And then Craig Quinalty, Director of Security for Penn Square Mall. And I will now turn it over to Special Agent from the Able Division, Vanessa Blaine, for a few comments.
Thank you, Director Claibs. Okay. Today we gather together around this tree, which serves as a symbol of both tragedy and hope. We come to honor and reflect on the lives that have been tragically taken from us due to an impaired driver. Those lives were full of promise, of dreams, and of love. While we cannot undo the pain of this loss, this tree and this gathering, they both serve as a living tribute to the strength of the human spirit and our shared commitment to a future where no one else has to endure this kind of heartache. Each gift under this tree represents a life lost, whether young or old, to an impaired driver in Oklahoma County in the last 4 years. And this is a collective effort to show a unified front against impaired driving. We are glad that you're here today to commemorate these lives.
As Director of ABLE, we are so honored to have these special guests who are speakers, and our next speaker is Tricia Everest, the Secretary of Public Safety, who has an announcement of Governor Stitt's proclamation, December 2024, Impaired Driving Prevention Month. Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Director. And thank you, Vanessa, for your opening. As I get ready to prepare to read the proclamation by Governor Stitt, I also want to recognize that for the prevention of impaired driving, it's not just drinking, that we have a significant problem with drug driving as well in the state of Oklahoma, and that the two really are kind of comparable, but also need to be jointly recognized. But I'm very proud to read this proclamation. Whereas alcohol-impaired driving has risen at historic levels nationally since 2019, kills more than 13,000 people each year, and accounts for 34% of the nation's traffic deaths. And whereas Oklahoma has taken action to stop alcohol-impaired driving and has reduced traffic deaths in 2022, but 186 people still died needlessly on our roadways because of drunk drivers. And whereas more work must be done to make Oklahoma's roads safe for drivers, passengers, and others sharing the road, and whereas Oklahoma has one of the most comprehensive ignition interlock laws in the nation to ensure drunk driving offenders cannot start a car if they have been drinking, and whereas everyone has a role to play in the fight against impaired driving through making responsible decisions that include a commitment to never drive while under the influence of alcohol. And whereas Oklahoma works to educate the public in December through the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over, and if you feel different, you drive different media campaign. And therefore, I, Governor J. Kevin Stitt, do hereby proclaim December 2024 as Impaired Driving Prevention Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. Our next speaker is Trooper Lisa Jorgensen from the Oklahoma Highway Patrol and her announcement of the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign and enforcement.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. The National Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign begins tomorrow, December 11th, and runs through January 1st. During this time, law enforcement will be conducting several saturation patrols and sobriety checkpoints throughout Oklahoma. In 2023, 55 law enforcement agencies across the state participated in this campaign and made 816 DUI arrests. These arrests included DUI alcohol, DUI drugs, and combined alcohol and DUI influence. Medical marijuana legalization and decriminalization of drugs, we've seen an increase in DUI drugs and combined influence DUIs. It is important to remember it may be illegal to possess a substance, whether that is alcohol, marijuana, or prescribed medication. It is never legal to drive under the influence of these. If it makes you feel different, you will drive different. I ask, you don't be the reason that a present is added to this tree next year. I urge you to make plans before spending a night out this holiday season. Everyone has the right to be able to make it home safe and not become a victim of this 100% preventable crime. Thank you for being here today.
Our next speaker is Director Donnie Anderson with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, and it's about OBN's issue with drug driving, and they have a very personal story to share.
Thank you, Director Claves. It is absolutely an honor for OBN and the OBN family to be here today. One, to bring awareness to the public in reference to drunk and drug driving. OBN is no different than many of these families that are represented on this tree behind me, along with one of our agents, Chuck Erickson, on a blustery November day, attempted to apprehend a person who was driving under the influence of methamphetamine. Agent Erickson was ran over and killed, later succumbed to his injuries from that driver. Oklahoma is leading 6th in the nation for drivers who are under the influence and succumb to accidents from fentanyl. The number 2 drug that Oklahoma faces in reference to accidents is marijuana. Oklahoma is not immune from what is going on. We have to also bring more awareness to what's going on. Not when we talk about impaired drivers, it is anything that impairs that driver's capability to operate that motor vehicle on the public highway that each one of our families operate and drive every day. That's why we're excited to be here today. We're excited to be a part of this. Thank you very much for what we're doing in reference to drunk and drug driving.
Our next speaker will be First Assistant Michael Fry, Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office, with the partnership with ABLE and all law enforcement agencies.
Good morning. On behalf of District Attorney Vicki Behenna, the hardworking folks in the District Attorney's Office, we want to thank you and say that we appreciate the ability, the opportunity to have this partnership with our law enforcement officers. You know, when we think about drunk driving, we think about the defendant, the person that committed the crime, and we think about the victim. What sometimes we lose is the families of those two people. So we have family members that are suffering from the loss of a loved one. But when you're drinking and driving, you cause an accident involving death or great bodily injury, you know, you're going to go to prison and your family's going to lose you too. And so we would just encourage everybody to avoid this senseless, careless, unnecessary act of drinking and driving. There's too many options. You can Uber, you can get a designated driver. There's Lyft. If you're at a hotel, just go ahead and get a hotel room. Call a parent, call a friend. There are so many other options. And we in the district attorney's office, and I'm sure law enforcement, would be perfectly happy to avoid seeing you as a drunk driver, because the repercussions, you can't take that back. It is what it is, right? So we hope that everybody has a happy, safe, and drunk driving free holiday. We wish you well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a very good friend of ours, Jeff Murrow, and his wife Christy is here today. Jeff is with the Victims of Impaired Driving, VOID. He wants to talk about what is VOID and how to contact, and we'll introduce our guest speaker today. But I do want to make a note that Jeff and Christy lost their daughter in a DUI accident also. So, Jeff?
Good morning, everyone. As Director Capt said, I'm here with my wife, Christy, and many other families from our group this morning to represent the people of Oklahoma who are paying the price for the crime of impaired driving on our streets with their lives and with their families' lives or loved ones' lives. After Marissa was killed, our daughter Marissa was killed in October of 2020, Christy and I, along with the help of several of the other folks in the crowd, formed an organization called VOID, or Victims of Impaired Drivers. And our mission at VOID is to fight for stricter legislation, to advocate for stricter legislation, to help get repeat offenders off of the streets, to support families, and to honor and remember and make sure that our victims are never forgotten. And so if you have, or anyone in your family has ever been affected by drunk driving or drug-impaired driving, please reach out to Victims of Impaired Drivers. We're easy to find. We're online. We have a website at voidok.org. We have a Facebook page. On our website, you'll find all the contact information you need. So please reach out to us. And now it's my honor to introduce one of our VOID members. She is a rising star, and her name is Starla Smith. Starla, come on up.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks to everyone who's out here with us today. I've been asked to share with you a story about my son, Thomas. But of course, there's not going to be enough minutes for me to share with you all that he was to me and his family and friends in the course of his 36 years. I would, though, like to make this a little interactive. By a show of hands, how many of you drove here today and or rode with someone? Okay. Also, how many of you have plans for the holiday, maybe this weekend, tonight, or even some things you're planning on doing in 2025? Okay, all right, great. Last, a little bit personal, but I wanted to ask, has anybody ever taken a Tylenol or some cough medicine to deal with a cough or deal with a headache? Anybody ever had to take something? Okay, great. Thank you so much for interacting with me. Well, just like those of you that chose to raise your hand, Thomas did the exact same thing. He got in his car and he left his home. It was his day off. It was a Thursday, July 14th, 2022. A seemingly ordinary Thursday, daylight savings time, and the sun was still shining bright. He, too, had plans for the day. He was going to go by his aunt's house, pick up his Amazon package, go back home. He was going to set up his new living room furniture that we had just purchased for him. He had taken chicken down to cook for him and his daughter. He stopped by my house on his way. We laughed and talked, and of course, he's my son, so he raided the refrigerator and ate a little bit, and he told me thank you because he hadn't eaten all day. I took this picture of Tom at 7:27. He left my house, and I just walked outside, and I snapped a picture of him as he walked away. I thought he was looking kind of cute that day. After he picked up his package, he drove about a block from his aunt's home, in Northeast Oklahoma City, and then tragedy struck. My sister called me and she said there had been an accident. Me, his sister, his daughter, and his nephew arrived at the chaotic scene. We observed his vehicle flipped over. We were standing there behind the yellow tape, and I would take this very same picture and I would show it to an Oklahoma City police officer as a form of identifying him. IMSA would call Thomas's time of death at 7:52, 25 minutes. 25 minutes from when I took his picture. 25 minutes would alter Thomas's life forever. It would change my life. It would change his children's life, his nephew and his sister, his extended family and his friends forever. We stood at the scene, and at 9:34, I took this picture. This is my baby in this bag. If you recall the last question I asked you about if you'd taken any medication or something to treat a cough, this is what happens when irresponsible people willfully choose to have more than a few alcoholic beverages or smoke marijuana with or without a card. If they choose to use illicit drugs, these people then have the expectation to be altered, like we did when we took our cough medicine, our Tylenol. But the selfishness comes in when they choose to operate a motorized vehicle, impaired or under the influence. Driving impaired is 100% preventable. How can we make a difference? We individually have the obligation to have tough calls. When we know people that make these risks and choose these risky lifestyles, we have to ask them, are they ready to take someone else's life? They may even possibly end their own by choosing to drive under the influence. There are too many options, as have already been stated here. Ubers, Lyfts. We can offer to give someone a ride. Ask them, do they have a plan for sleeping it off? But there is a way to avoid this. Part of VOID's mission is, again, to support. It's to provide awareness. It's prevention through legislation, enforcement, as well as prosecution. The tree of life. The irony and the sobering fact is, no person on this tree has life anymore. But if we'd have said, come to the tree of death, it wouldn't have been well received. That wouldn't have been okay. So we cannot continue to sugarcoat it, because just since making plans for this event, there have been countless more deaths. The numbers continue to rise, and it cannot continue to be pretty. It is horrific. So the way I can honor my son today and all these other beautiful souls is continue to try to do the best we can to advocate. As for me and my family, we will continue to move forward with our life and the grief that's been assigned to us. I will continue to advocate along with other families of VOID for change, prevention, efforts, support law enforcement, support any legislative changes, as well as the criminal justice process. Thomas and these beautiful souls represented on this tree should have had the opportunity to fulfill their plans. And lastly, tomorrow is December 11th. 39 years ago, I gave birth to my first baby. And his name, of course, is Thomas. So tomorrow would have been his 39th birthday. I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to just share with you. I pray that you have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you, and happy birthday, Thomas.
Starla, thank you for sharing your tragedy, but also hope for all these people who are here. The Murrows, thank you for always advocating for the right things, and law enforcement, everybody here for the right reasons. We pray that you have a safe holiday season for you and your families who are represented. And so as we close, I would ask that Assistant Director and General Counsel for ABLE, Lori Carter, come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Director. And thank you so much to all of the families that are here today to make this remembrance. Impaired driving doesn't just take lives, it shatters families, communities, and futures. It is a loss that goes far beyond the moment of impact, and it is preventable. This tree stands as a powerful reminder of the human cost of impaired driving, but it also stands as a symbol of resilience and the hope for change. It is a call to action for all of us to take responsibility, to raise awareness, and to help create a world where no more lives are lost to this preventable tragedy. To Starla and all of the families that are here today, your pain is understood, your grief acknowledged, and your strength is inspirational. You are supported by a community that cares, by individuals who want to see a world where your loss was not in vain, and by a collective will by all the people that are here today to ensure that others are spared the heartache that you have endured. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being a part of this message so that everyone can have a safe holiday season. Thank you.
Thanks to all of our speakers. Thanks to everyone who attended today. Thank you, Vanessa, for organizing this, and thank you for the media for sharing our story. That will adjourn our meeting, and if you need to speak with anyone, feel welcome to do so. Thank you very much.
Questionnaire. So let's just start with the basic one. What are we out here doing today at Penn Square Mall?
We're out here at Penn Square Mall participating in the Tree of Life ceremony. Each year, the Able Commission brings this tree and places wrapped presents below the tree to represent Oklahomans who have died in impaired driving crashes.
So all these victims that have died, and I mean, you can kind of rephrase this, but I liked the phrase somebody said, this is a preventable outcome.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, each and every one of these deaths represented by a wrapped present is a preventable tragedy. Impaired driving is completely unnecessary. It's also reckless and selfish. People who drive impaired, be it on alcohol, illicit drugs, or prescribed drugs, are taking their own lives into their hands, but also the life of an innocent driver. Everyone out on our roads are trying to get somewhere safely. And when impaired drivers cause collisions, way too many Oklahomans die from that.
I mean, this is preventable. This is something that we've done. So talking to those that maybe, especially at the holidays, maybe trying to loosen up a bit, maybe trying to have some fun, not putting policing fun, but there are some things that people can do to make sure this doesn't happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the holiday season. Everybody's expected to go and celebrate with their friends and family and participate in the festivities. That's totally fine. But if you're going to use drugs or drink alcohol, make a plan to get home after the event. Everyone can get home safely. There are too many options out there for people to continue taking these risks. Designate a driver. Someone can stay sober and drive everybody home. Call if you find yourself in a situation where you have had something to drink and you don't feel comfortable driving, call a friend. All of your friends and loved ones would love to come out and pick you up and get you home safely rather than have you endure some tragedy.
I mean, that's the basics. Is there anything you specifically want to be adding in?
Yeah, I just want to thank the Able Commission for putting this together. It really does highlight the issue as we come into the holiday season. All of Oklahoma needs to know that impaired driving should not be tolerated. It's completely avoidable, and the Able Commission brings that to light with this event every year.
and space, we have Jill Farron, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Penn Square Mall.
Along with one of our babies, we're right out here on a blessed November day. The temperature after in, you person is driving and influence and methamphetamine. Agent Harrison was ran over and killed as he succumbed to his injury from that drive. Oklahoma.
Of the other folks in the crowd, formed an organization called Boyd, or Victims of Impaired Drivers. And our mission at Boyd is to fight for stricter legislation to